Thank you, Debbie. That was perfect, David, for today. Good job. In fact, I think we're done. Let's go home.
I'll tell Lori.
Good job. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's so good to be back here. How are you?
Good.
Are you good? I understand there's a lot going on around here. Boy, I leave you for a couple of months, things change. These are intense times, aren't they?
What? The only comment I have, all hell breaks loose.
Well, I was going to say that, Grandpa Don, but you say it much better than I do.
Breaks loose, heaven to emerge.
Indeed. Indeed. So it feels to me like my task, having the audacity to come up to the front of the room and turn around like I have something to say. When we're in these days and times, what is there to say? What is my task at this point? What can I say about everything that's going on in this world? Because it's pretty wild and crazy, isn't it? And one of the things that feels important to me is to acknowledge that it feels pretty wild and crazy. that it's not just you. We're all experiencing it in our own ways, all around the planet, aren't we? And so the important thing, and I'll say this, you've heard me say it, and I'll say it again and again because it continues to be important, is that our spiritual community becomes more and more important as the days pass. Because they're the place we come where we remind each other who we are. Because it's easy to forget when it gets wild and crazy. When, as Grandpa Don says, all hell breaks loose. It's easy to forget, isn't it? It may not be the first thing that comes to mind when we lose a loved one. As Grandpa Don has done, losing his daughter was it Friday? Did you say yes. Friday? No. And Nora has recently lost her husband of 33 years. And many of you know people who are saying goodbye to loved ones. Sometimes it's not the first thing we think of when we're in such grief. Sometimes it's not the first thing we think of when we're not able to pay the rent this month. Right? Sometimes it's not the first thing we think of when we turn on the TV and we find out there's been another terror attack in London. Sometimes it's not the first thing we think of. And so we come here and we get to remind each other. That's what spiritual family is. When I forget, you'll remind me. And when you forget, I'll remind you. And we need those reminders right now. Because everything is coming up to be healed. Remember this. And I'll remind you, we've said it before. There's more love alive on this planet than there ever was. Amen. And what does love do? It seeks everything unlike itself and brings it up to be healed. And oh, are we seeing that? Do not despair, my friends. These are things that need to come up, that need to shift, that need to change, to need to be looked at. The light needs to shine in all the corners where they haven't shone before, because it's time. We're opening up. We're coming to awareness. We're coming to consciousness, and things that we ignored or didn't even notice before, we are noticing now. We're saying, no, that's not okay with me. Of course it isn't. And we're going to have more and more opportunities. And it isn't going to just happen over there. It's going to require us to get clear. Get clearer and clearer about who we are and what it is that we want, what we desire to be, what we desire our world to look like. And what does that ask of you and me in this moment? And that's why when you come here, you hear reminders that it's very, very important to do the inner work, because that's where the change takes place. The outer world is a reflection of what's going on in here, right?
Right.
So if you're looking out there and going, I don't know, where's the place we make changes? It's in here. This is the place in here. And so that's what we experience when we come here, are opportunities to be reminded of that. And then, well, what does that look like? What are we supposed to do? Have you got a workbook or a handbook, Joanna, that you're handing out today? This is one of them. You already got this. We already talked about this. And this is a powerful symbol of connecting to the love that is in all of us. First of all, for ourselves. My favorite line, as you well know, loving the one in the mirror first, because you can't really love anyone else until we're doing that. Our love for others is suspicious until we're coming from self-love and self-acceptance. Do you get that? Does that ring true for you?
Yeah.
Don't let anybody tell you your truth. So along those lines, I was looking at one of my favorite teachers, all-time teachers, is Emily Cady. You know Emily Cady. Emily Cady is considered to be one of the premier teachers in unity. And in fact, she wrote what's considered the unity primer for of its like handbook of what unity is, if you want to know what unity teaches or what unity believes. Emily Cady's book, Lessons in Truth, is considered to be the unity handbook for what it's all about, that we're up to, what we believe, what we hold as true. If you've never read it, has anybody read it?
Yeah.
And the thing about it is Emily Cady lived at the turn of the century, the last century, the 19th, no, yeah, she was the 19th century, right? Because, God, we're in the 2 centuries later. Boy, David. moving right along. And so Emily writes at the time of the late 1800s and around that time. And so her writing is powerful, but it's also not that easy to read because it's written in the language of that time. And she uses words like man a lot, and God and man, and Jesus and man, and man. And so if you're kind of triggered by that, you're just going to have to start reading it and just see past that and just say it's human. She forgot to put the HU in there. It's like that. Don't let that hold you back from reading what she has to share, because it's powerful stuff. Emily Cady was a physician in New York City at the turn of that century. She was she was a physician, but she was ND, a naturopathic physician. Thank you. She was a naturopathic physician at that time. Naturopathic physicians in New York City, especially a woman, at that time was unheard of. But that's what she was, and she had a thriving practice at that time. And so it was through her practice, working with the human body and working at it from a naturopathic perspective, that really helped her to get a sense of how connected we are with spirit. And that spirit is alive and well inside of us, body, mind, and spirit. That's who we are. And so it really helped her. And if you do read her, you'll see that she refers to her work as a physician often in her writing. And I was happening to go through her book, How I Use Truth. And I was looking at the chapter called Trusting and Resting. I thought that was an interesting title for a chapter. And so I took a look at that, and it was exactly what felt like was going to come up today. And hopefully it's relevant to you given everything that's going on in our lives. And what she talks about is how we have to trust God, and we always hear about that. We hear about it every week in church, don't we? We read about it. It's in the daily word, let go, let God. David's singing about it. It's powerful stuff. It's the key. Yes, it is. Let go, let God. Trusting God, trusting God, trusting God. That's what we're supposed to do. If it's that simple, why is this so hard? That's the question, isn't it? If it's just that, why is this so hard? And so Emily speaks to that in her book, How I Use Truth. And she was talking about how she was working with a patient who came to her with some issues that he was having, some health issues. And at first, when they first started working together, he started improving right away. But as he saw that it was working, he became very insistent for it to work faster. It wasn't working fast, and I know none of you can relate to this. It wasn't working fast enough, and so he started putting pressure on her to make it work faster. And at that point, the healing stopped. Can any of you relate to that? Yeah. So I'm going to read to you, and again, this is Emily's writing from that turn of the century. You cannot help wondering why he improved so perceptibly with the first few treatments, and afterwards, even with your increased zeal, seemed to stand still or get worse. Let me tell you why. When you first began to treat you, so sure of the abundance of divine life, calmly and trustingly spoke the truth to your patient. When he got in a hurry, you, beginning to take on responsibility that was God's, not yours, grew anxious and began to cast on him your compressed anxiety. You were no longer a channel for divine life, sweet peace, harmonious to flow through. But by your intensity and hurry, you completely shut off the divine influx and were able only to force on him out of your anxious mortal mind a few strained, compulsory thoughts that held him as in a vice and exhausted you. In the matter of God as our supply, or any other side of the divine law that we, from time to time, attempt to bring into manifestation, the moment we begin to be anxious, our quiet becomes simply the airtight valve of tension or suppressed anxiety that shuts out the very thing we are trying to bring about, and so prevents its manifestation. Do you hear that? Have you experienced that? This morning, I had an experience of it quite directly just a week or so ago. I have a very dear friend, one of my most dearest, closest friends for 30 years. Her cat, Figaro, who she'd had for 16 years, was very, very sick. And it was time for him to be let go. And she didn't want to do it. She didn't want to do it. And many, many years ago, I'd had a dog, Ralph, my English bulldog, who had cancer. And he had 5 vets, 5, count them 5 vets that he went to. And he was on chemotherapy. And he saw the vet 3 times a week. And I put that dog through hell. And my thought was, because I don't want to lose him. It was about me. It wasn't about him. And when I finally realized what I was doing, I had to let go, and I vowed that I would never put an animal through that again. That when the animal's letting me know by what's happening for him that it's time, that I would make that decision to let him go for his peace, not for my loss or fears, right? So my friend called me to come over and be with her. And so I went over there, and when I went into the house, I see how bad Figaro is. And I know that he needs to leave as soon as possible. And he's yelling. He's letting us know. Let me go. It's time. It's time. She wasn't interpreting it that way. So I'm thinking, whoa, what am I going to do here? Because I'm really concerned about this cat. I feel responsibility to this cat. I also don't want to push my friend who is in deep grief about losing this cat. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I went outside, and I'm standing there. She lives right at Lake Washington, and I was standing there looking at the water, and the thought crossed my mind, ding, gee, what would happen if I handed this over to the divine essence? Because so often when we're in a difficult situation, what gives us stress is us trying to figure out what we need to do about it, how to handle it. I don't see the answer here. What am I going to do? And the stress builds up and the stress builds up, right? And suddenly it dawns on me. I think a seagull flew by and just dropped the message in my brain. Spirit to Joanna, we're out here. Because you see, Spirit is not going to just come in. We always have to allow it. It doesn't come in on top of us. It won't. We have to choose it. We have to allow it. So suddenly I go, oh, yeah, because I'm not getting this. I don't know what to do here, and this is really hard. Because I love both these beings, and I want to be true to both these beings, but I don't see how to do it. Okay, Divine Essence, this is yours. And one of the things that I really begin to realize about that is I also have to give up the outcome. Because so often when I'm praying for something, I've got an agenda. I don't know about you, maybe you don't do that, but when I'm praying, it's like, God, dear God, please God, and it needs to look like this. And the answer is this. And this is what I want, God, please. Please, 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 please. And I am giving it to you, but it needs to look like this. This is what I want, God. This is what it needs to be. Have you ever done that?
Give me a present, let me wrap it.
And I'm open to you as long as it looks like this. And you know, it's interesting too, because for a long time in New Thought now, since the secret thing, there was this teaching that said, and you need to be really clear on what you want. You got to get clear. You got to know the color, the shape, the size, the day, the time, all of that. And a lot of people got really upset with the secret because it didn't work, because it doesn't work like that. The whole point is taking our hands off of it, not grasping tighter. Because when we're holding on like this, where exactly does Spirit get to come in? There's no place for it to come in. And what causes us to do that is because we have an agenda, right? It needs to look like this. And so we offer it to the divine, holding tight. There's no place for the divine to come in. And so then we think God doesn't love us, or we're not doing it right, or we're not worthy of our answer, or God's not answering me. It's not any of those things. The issue is this. Where is Spirit supposed to come in? And so what it asks of us, and as conscious beings, my friends, we need to understand this. If I'm going to offer something to the divine, I have to let go. As Marilyn said in the Daily Word, let go and let God. Those are powerful words. But my friends, most of us don't understand them for this reason. Let go and let God, but we're holding on like this because we want what we want. And the truth is, when we let go, we have to let go of the outcome as well. We have to be willing to say, I offer it to you for the highest good, whatever that is. And that's a whole different thing, isn't it? And that means trusting God, trusting divine essence, trusting universal power, trusting Goddess, whatever you name for the essence of life. The right name is the name that speaks in your heart. Trusting that presence. Do you think the divine presence that lives in you doesn't know your heart's desire? Where do you think it came from? Where do you think you came from? Do you think Spirit doesn't understand your heart and your heart's desire? Do you think divine essence doesn't see and feel your intention? What your preference is in the matter? But here's the thing. Divine essence has the whole picture. We've talked about this before. We just have this picture, which we can see like this. That's all we've got, right? The divine has the whole picture. The divine has all life, all lifetimes, all souls. Is coming from the perspective of love of all life. And understands what's up way more than we do. Now, is our preference or desire part of that? Absolutely. And it may be at the top. And it also may not be, given the whole picture. And the thing that's hard for us is to truly let go. We can't pretend to let go. We have to truly let go. And I promise you, sometimes that can actually be physically painful. Have you ever had that experience of letting go and it hurts so much to let go you couldn't breathe? But that's what's asked of us, not to punish us, not to torture us, but to give Spirit the opportunity to work, to move, to have its being within us and within the circumstances, wherever they are. When we're praying or asking for the divine support when someone we love is ill, of course we have an agenda. We want to keep them, don't we, Grandpa Don? We want to keep them, don't we, Nora? We want to keep them. But each one of our loved ones is also a soul on its own journey. And it has a path. And it's possible that it's time to move on. And so the prayer becomes, divine, love this precious being through me and through this circumstance. And ask for the highest good, whatever that is. And help me deal with whatever that looks like. Because I trust you. I trust that you're holding this precious daughter in your arms, that this precious husband in your arms. I trust that. I don't know how I can let them go. But I trust you, and I trust love in the midst of this. So, I'm standing out there. I said, okay, I'm letting this go because I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So, I don't know whether to push this or let go or tell her to do this or do that or whatever. So I'm just handing it over because I don't know. And I'm asking for the highest good, whatever that looks like. Be love through me, whatever that is. Love my friend and love her kitty cat through me, whatever that looks like. So it was only maybe 15 minutes later, we get a phone call from this vet in Woodinville who comes to the home to euthanize animals to make it easier on the family and the animals. Some people don't want that, wouldn't do that. Some people that means a lot to do. And that's what my friend wanted. So she called and she said, I run a nonprofit in Nicaragua, and I just got back at 12:30 this morning, and my schedule's crazy because I've been gone in Nicaragua, and so I can do it today at 12:30. That's the only time I can do it this week. And so she went, oh, well, I guess we'll have to do it today at 12:30. And so there it was. There it was. And that's just a small example of what we do, what happens when we get out of the way. Because I'm in there trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do here? And how can I support Figaro? And how can I support my friend? And you know, like that. It wasn't about me. It wasn't mine to do. What was mine was to get out of the way and allow Spirit to come through. Trusting and resting. And both of those parts are equally important. Trusting. I trust you, Spirit. I trust you, Divine. I trust you. Resting means get out of the way. And what that also means is letting go of my agenda, what it is that I want to happen. Questions or comments about any of that? Anybody? Getting out of the way. I can't remember if we've talked about this before, but do you have any idea why it is that Jesus performed most of his miracles on the Sabbath? If you look it up, most of the miracles were done on the Sabbath.
Day of rest.
Hmm?
Day of rest.
Day of rest. And he didn't do it just to make the Pharisees mad. Because you weren't supposed to do anything on the Sabbath. Right? Jesus performed most of his miracles on the Sabbath, and there's a very interesting lesson there that relates to what we're talking about. That the miracles occurred on the day that we're not supposed to be doing anything. Do you see? We're not supposed to be involved. It's about letting it go. It's about resting, trusting and resting. Now, does that mean that we're just supposed to sit around and do nothing? Oh gosh, wouldn't it be great if that was that answer? A permanent vacation sounds good to me. No, that's the time when we're actually doing our own work. That is the work with the one in the mirror. Loving, accepting, forgiving, allowing. That all takes a lot of energy. Going about our business, working in the garden, doing the walk, doing whatever it is we normally do, but doing it from a place of relaxing, knowing that the highest good is unfolding. That's the task. And as conscious beings, we really need to understand that. And so, like, for example, if you're dealing with a health challenge, well, we always have an agenda with a health challenge. I want to feel better. No more pain, please. No more tumor, please. No more whatever it is, please. Thank you very much. Please, please. So how is it then when we offer it to the divine? Say, divine, Love me through this situation, whatever it is. Love me through the pain. Love me through the tumor. Love me through the whatever it is. Love me through it. Love me through it. Give me strength to allow the highest outcome, whatever that is. And I trust you. I trust you, sweet spirit. And it's not easy, my friends, until it is. And with practice, it becomes easier. It's like exercising a muscle. Questions or comments about that?
You got it tight, you got a lot of tension going on.
You're right, Nora. Absolutely. And what that tension does is, again, it holds us tight. And if you're dealing with something and you're not seeing an answer or a solution, look at where you're holding the tension and the tightness and see what you can do to relax it. Oh yeah, but I have to have the money by Friday. Right? So it's a matter of allowing, okay, Spirit, love me through this. Love me through this checkbook. Boy, I don't see the answer, but I know you do. And so I open and allow the perfect unfolding, whatever that is. Whatever that is. And whenever that is. Do you think the divine doesn't know that the deadline is Friday? Do you think the divine doesn't know everything else around that you will never know? That's the thing. We only know the part that we know. And that's what's stressing us out. Doesn't it make sense to hand it over to that which knows all of it? What we know and everything else as well? Did any of you see the movie The Shack?
Yes.
Or if you didn't see the movie, read the book.
Yeah, it's the book.
At first it was kind of a thing that I hesitated to do, and maybe you all did, because I kind of got the sense that it was like about fundamental Christianity, and that's not my favorite thing, and so I wasn't interested in it. When I read the book, I picked it up and put it down like 3 or 4 times at the beginning because I didn't want to read it, but finally something kept nudging me, so I read the whole thing and I loved it. And when I saw the movie, I really loved it. I thought they did a good job with it. But one of the points that's made in there, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it because it's really an important point for these days and times. God, who's played by Octavia Spencer, and she does a wonderful job, mentions to the main character that God, that she loves him. She loves everybody the same. She loves the people that have stuff happening to them, and she loves the people that are doing this stuff to the people that have stuff happening to them. All the same. And so when God acts, when God shows up, when God shows up in the moment, it's coming from the place of loving it all. That's a really important perspective, isn't it? Like when we look at what happened last night in London. Spirit, divine essence, God loves everybody. The folks that were hanging out having dinner, the folks that were walking on the bridge, the folks that were driving the van. Loves everybody just the same. So when we offer it up, we're offering up to divine power that is coming from that place. And it's a place that's really hard for us to stand, isn't it? Because we have judgments. We have an agenda. Those are the bad people over there. Divine Essence doesn't see it that way. Divine Essence loves those people as much as us. loves everybody, everyone, every religion, every skin color, every political party, every economic level, everybody. In Conversations with God, Neil, that writer, asks God, well, how do you do this? How do you deal with it? Because people always think that you're on their side. God says, I am. I am. You're right. I am. And that kind of blows our minds, doesn't it? How does that happen? How can God love someone who's doing something so heinous, so evil, so bad? How can anybody do something like that and say that they're an expression of God? Because they are. How does that happen? How does that work? And the simplest way here this morning for us to take a look at it, and we may not be able to get our heads around it, but a simple way to consider it is doing life from here. Right? And dealing with ourselves and the people around us from here. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. Does it mean that because Spirit can't get in there, that Spirit doesn't love them, or that they didn't come from Spirit? It does not. It means they're operating and doing life and making choices from here. Questions or comments about that? Are you guys still awake?
Once long ago, the closed fist was, the concept was part of the Sunday talk, and it really spoke to me because you can't receive when it's closed. You can only receive when it's open, and then when it's open, you're giving. So, but it's closed fist cannot receive.
Indeed. Indeed, Marilyn, that's a very high principle. A closed fist cannot receive. What can you do with an open hand?
Receive.
You can receive. You can shake other people's hands. You can connect. You can comfort and support. Right? You can hold water and food. What can you do with this?
Hit.
You can hit, you can pound sand, you can pound the dough. What'd you say?
You can ache.
You can ache because it hurt. Yeah, when you do this, as Nora was saying, you have tension all the way up, up into your neck and back and on this side because you're holding tight. And so life can't get in. Truth can't get in. Love can't come forth. It can't go in or out. And that's how things happen the way they do that seems so, how could anybody do that? Because they're coming from a place like this. They can't love themselves, love and accept and forgive themselves. And so all they can do is strike out. And indeed they do. And what is the thing that we can do the most from way over here that's helpful? Is practice opening our hands to ourselves first and then fully to everyone else from a place of open-handedness. Does that make sense? So does that give let go and let God a different meaning? A deeper meaning? Yeah. So no questions and comments, you're going to let me off, huh? Let's just take a moment. Let's just take a moment and get comfortable where you are if you're not already. And let's just take a moment and close our eyes. And let's just practice. Let's start with closed fists like this. And if there's something that's going on for you in your life, whether it's a health thing, whether it's a grief thing, whether it's a money thing, whether it's a love thing, it doesn't matter what it is. But bring it to mind and start with holding your hands tight. And breathing, breathe. And we practice breathing and allowing. Breathing and allowing. And as David's music, we open up to the sound of that beautiful music. And with the invitation of the music and the breathing, we begin to let our hands relax. Let our hands open. Open to the light. Open to the air. Open to love. And then as we open, we say yes to the highest outcome, whatever that is. Trusting that the highest good is unfolding even now. That we take a thought about it, our agenda about it, our desire about it, and we let it go with the next breath. Making room for the love and light of divine love, divine light, divine healing, divine order. Letting go. And is it possible that that which we desire is the outcome? Absolutely. But from this place, this stance, this awareness of letting go, as the saying goes, if it comes back, it's ours. And if it doesn't, I trust that it becomes that which is the highest good, whatever that is, whatever it looks like. And if something goes away, it's making room for something new. A new beginning, a new awareness. If it's someone we love that's moving on, oh, we are so grateful for what they've given us in this life. And we send them off with love and gratitude for the next step of their eternal journey. We release them into the arms of God. And for all those who are reeling from circumstances that are afraid or in doubt or have just experienced a trauma. The people in London, people all over the world, or maybe someone in your own life, or maybe it's you. We let these open hands send off blessings, comfort, support, solutions. Healing. And if there's anyone you want to specifically remember right now in this place with your open hands of love, feel free to say their names aloud right now. Diane, Dad, George's mom. For ourselves and for all these blessed ones, we open our hands and our hearts to you, Spirit, to you, divine love. Fill us to overflowing with your presence. Fill me in all the corners, all the spaces. Fill me. I need for nothing, for I am full. And so therefore I choose from a place of love rather than from need. For the opportunity to be reminded in this moment of now of how we are expressions of this divine love, and that we can trust it and open our hands and our hearts to it. For this reminder, we are grateful. And so it is. Amen.